Hello and welcome to today's webinar where we'll be looking at how you can deliver digital literacy teaching in Key Stage 1 and 2. A good place to start is actually working out what digital literacy is in relation to the whole overview of computing. And to do this, I'm just going to show you the progression of skills document we have because this quite helpfully illustrates the different key areas and the progression. So I've just clicked on the Teachers tab at the top here. And I'm going to go down into the Computing Scheme of Work area. On the top row here, we have the Assessment Tools and Progression. And I'm going to open that up, and here is where we can find our progression of skills and our progression of online safety skills. I'm going to start by looking at the general progression of skills here. When I open up the second icon across, this will show me the whole primary phase for computing. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. And I'll just show you the three main colours that we've broken them down into. Orange is computer science, turquoisey colour green is information technology or IT, and the red columns are digital literacy. So broken down into the key areas for key stages with the national curriculum statements, we have digital literacy is focused on children being able to use technology safely and respectfully, keeping their personal information private, identifying where to go for help and support when they have concerns about content or contact on the internet or other online technologies. And the cell underneath explains the outcome, if you're following the Purple Mash scheme of work, how the children can help facilitate that. Similarly, for Year 2, because it follows the same key stage objectives, we have similar statement and then the different activities that we'll explore today as part of the outcome. When we move down to Key Stage 2, again, similarly, it's about using technology safely and understanding what is acceptable and unacceptable behaviour online. And the children will be using the 2Email facility to help develop those skills. In Year 4, similarly, they'll also be using some additional tools such as 2Connect and talking about ways in which they can help discuss and report any concerns that they have. And then up into Upper Key Stage 2, this talks about being respectful online, their own understanding about personal privacy and mental well-being of themselves and others. And then into Year 6, how they can help demonstrate ways in which they can be safe and respectful online using a range of different technologies. And that helps be facilitated as part of our 2Respond email activities. A lot of this as well filters into the progression of skills for online safety. So within here, we have the year group breakdown and the outcomes for emerging, expected and exceeding for children to be able to, as you can see in Year 1, do the basics like being able to log in safely and to start to understand the idea of ownership of their own work. And as the children move through the school and through the year groups, they will then build upon this and become much more competent users of online safety. It's worth noting as well that all of this key element of computing being digital literacy, the focus is on how children conduct themselves online and being able to use online content appropriately and respectfully. And a lot of that filters into the Education for a Connected World document, which you'll find within the Teachers section at the top, and you'll see the icon for it on the main screen here in the planning area. The Education for a Connected World document is the government guidance showing how children should be maintaining these key 8 areas to be able to lead a healthy life digitally. So self-image and identity, online relationships, online reputation, online bullying, managing online information, health, well-being and lifestyle, privacy and security, and copyright and ownership. And as you can see here, what we've done is we've mapped this out, linking from early years all the way to Year 6, showing you how children can use the tools within Mini Mash and Purple Mash to help develop their skills in each of these areas. And then there's direct links to the activity. If you hold down Control and click on them, it will open up in a separate tab for you to be able to explore. The Education for a Connected World document is really a key tool of reference. So if your colleagues aren't aware of it, it's really useful. Maybe just email a copy to them or just point them in the direction of where they can find it in Purple Mash so they can familiarise themselves with that. The best place to start with regards to teaching digital literacy for your children is making sure that they have the right password set up on their account. The reason for this is even as way back as in year 1, if you're following the scheme of work, the children will first learn that they have their own username and password credentials to log them onto their own private learning space. This is something that they're taught to keep private, to keep to themselves, because if they were to tell anybody else their password, then somebody else could log on and impersonate them. So it's really useful to check that your children have got the right password settings for their age group. To do this, click on your name in the top right-hand corner of your Purple Mash screen. Hover over the Admin Settings option and then select Manage Users. It's in here that you can change the passwords for all of your class in one go if you need to. We recommend that passwords are easier for younger children and more complex for older children. So if I wanted to check that my reception year 1 and year 2 classes had simplified passwords, I just need to click on their class names to highlight them. And then in the top right hand corner, the purple option with the 3 dots. If I click on that, I can now change the passwords for these 3 classes that I've selected. If I select Change Passwords, I get to choose from different options of complexity. We recommend that for younger users, they use 2-digit picture pins. For older users, we recommend more complex passwords, so the latter 2 options would be ideal for Key Stage 2, and more specifically upper Key Stage 2 children. If I now click Generate, then all those 3 classes that I have highlighted, all the children within the classes will now have the 2-digit picture pin passwords. So if I was to open up a class and look at the pupils in class 1, for example, Amy, she has now got the 7 and 3. And how that transpires when you come to actually print out the passwords is that if I now generate the logins for my children in class 1, let's give it a moment, we can see here that the children can log on and they can either use the digit 7 and 3, or they can remember penguin and dog, or they can remember pale blue and yellow. So if the children in my school were using the quick login links, for example, then all that they would need to do, if I just quickly access my guest account, is if they wanted to log in, they can just click on the guest name, find their name from the list. So for example here, if I was going to choose Amy, and I could just remember the penguin and then the dog, or again 7 and the 3, or the light blue and the yellow. Once you've checked children have got the correct password complexities, it'll be time to have a look at your online safety and digital literacy planning and resources for computing. So I'm going to click on the Teachers tab at the top and go down into the Computing Scheme of Work. Now within there, each of the year groups here have their own plans and resources, and we've now got some new updated features that will hopefully make your lives a little bit easier and give you a bit more confidence at delivering lessons to your children. So if I just open up a year in the middle, year 3 for example, and I'm going to open up the Online Safety unit. Within here, we have our plans and our knowledge organisers like before, but now we have teacher slideshows, which allow you as teachers to literally follow the structure of the slideshow to help deliver the lesson. They're a really great time saver and particularly useful as a supportive tool if you are new to teaching computing. The plans, if you're familiar with them already, you'll notice that the plans are quite interactive. If you click on the contents page, then you can jump down to the medium-term plan and you can see the success criteria. For example, you can see here the first lesson is all about what makes a good password, how the children can contribute to a class concept map, giving ideas of ways children can communicate. They will create a class blog, and for an extension, the children can understand that passwords help to limit who can see personal, private and confidential information. So if I click on that lesson number, I then get taken to the lesson plan where I can see the aims, the success criteria, and any resources that I might need to load up for that lesson. Then the activities are very much filtered into the slideshow. So if I show you the lesson 1 slideshow, I'll open it up and it opens up a PowerPoint document on my computer. Now if I want to change any of the content, I can just click the Enable Editing option at the top and then select the Edit Anyway button that appears next. And you'll see that all the lessons, and I'm just showing you online safety at the moment, but these are for every lesson, for every year group, for every unit. They'll cover the aims, the success criteria, and then in this case, the children will go through talking points about why passwords are important, having a look at their Purple Mash passwords. And because they're starting Key Stage 2 now, this particular one is aimed at Year 3, it talks about how they'll be changing from those easier picture passwords onto the more complex text-based passwords. And each lesson has got everything there for you, the links as well to the activities. If you click on them, it will load up that activity for you. So here I've clicked through the link and it's opened up a 2Connect document, which is our concept mapping tool. Now if I was doing this in the lesson, then I can just click on the blank one like it suggests on the lesson plan and select choose. And this lesson plan asks me to get the children to think of ways we use the internet, or maybe it's ways that we use computers actually. So I'm going to pose that in the middle and I want my children to collaborate and answer ways in which we use computers. Now if I want my children to join in and use collaboration mode, you can see collaboration is currently off. So if I do want them to collaborate, I will need to save it first. So if I just click on that button, it will prompt me to save it. So if I just save it maybe to my class 1 and I'm going to call it Computer Connect. Then once it's been saved, you can see that now I can open that up and the children in that class 1 can now access it. So whichever class you want the children to access it, just save it to that class's folder. And then children can collaborate with this in real time when they're on their own Purple Mash, and their answers will appear live on the screen, and they can add links, they can add images, they can add hyperlinks and so on to it to make it relevant based on what it is that you've actually asked of them. And what's quite useful is you can use a little scribble pad next to it to make notes. So you can jot down all the different things that they are writing about to the side and then store this. And all of this can then be printed out if you want to keep an example of it on your working wall to just show how that you're, being online safe at school. Okay, so that's one of our tools, the 2Connect tool. By all means, click on the thumbnail icon at the top and it will show you ways in which you can use it. Going back to the progression of skills for digital literacy throughout Key Stages 1 and 2, you might have noticed that children will be interacting with the 2Email app, which allows children to safely practice online email skills and also how they can respond and report any inappropriate communications. So I just wanted to signal to you ways in which you can ensure that your 2Email account is set up correctly for the age of your children. To do this, I'm just going to navigate to the 2Email app and I'm going to find that in Tools. I could find it in Computing, or I could just search for email in there as well if I like. I've just clicked on Tools and now I can select the 2Email tool. Before I do any work with my children on 2Email, it's really important that I check the 2Email settings are set up correctly. Just one point to note, if you haven't used 2Email with your children, it isn't a real live email account, it's a simulation. So children aren't able to email any third-party email software, and they can't receive any email from parents and carers and so on who are outside and external of Purple Mash. So there are no safeguarding implications in that sense whereby they can be contacted by somebody. So I'm going to open the 2Email settings now, and you should see that your class name appears on the left-hand side. There we go. Sorry, my computer's being a bit slow. So if you're assigned to more than one class, you can change the email settings per class by clicking on the class name, or if it's just individuals that you want to change the settings for, you can click on the child's name once you've expanded the class. So, for example, if my children are in year 3 and they're in class 3, I can see the current interface mode is aimed at younger children, and we generally advise these for Key Stage 1 children. And because these children are now in Key Stage 2, I'm going to change that to be older. This just allows their interface to look a little bit more realistic with more options to choose from. You can see there's also the option to allow emailing to staff members. If it's set to no, then by all means you can change it to yes or vice versa. And any changes you make, just click the save button. The allow emailing within the class is currently set to no, which means that none of the children within class 3 can email each other. If you want to allow that, again, you can just click yes and save and then revert back whenever you need to. We do recommend that if you allow emailing within the class, then we encourage you to require approval between children-to-children emails. This means that if Asher was trying to email Christopher, that it would first come to the adult that's linked to that class for them to be able to check the content and then approve or not. And that allows you to then open a dialogue with the children. Asher, why did you send that to Christopher? It was inappropriate, or so on. You can obviously change that and revert it back at the end if you do have a lesson that's purely all about the children emailing each other, because obviously you'll be there for a long time just approving emails. So you can change that on and off as often as you like, and the effects are instant. The enable practice users option is the fictional characters that we have. If you don't want them to appear within the guest book, then just select no. And for older children, if you want them to be able to type in email addresses to their classmates, then you can switch on pseudo email addresses. It just makes it look a little bit more realistic. But again, these email addresses can't be reached by anyone external of Purple Mash from outside your school. And again, any changes that you make, you can revert at the end of the lesson, just to make sure it's always up to date with the needs and requirements of your children. Now you'll notice within the 2Email app we have a selection of online safety email activities, and as you can see here, the children do not have access to these activities unless they are set as a to-do by their teacher. Now these are what we refer to as to respond activities. So these directly link up with our digital literacy plans for online safety, and they allow children to put into practice the skills they've learned during their online safety lessons. For example, the first activity is a simulation of a child receiving an email from a stranger. What should the children do to react to this, having followed through the lessons with their teacher? So if I was to set this as a to-do, my children would then receive an email asking for advice. So I'm going to play it now and show you what it looks like. Okay, so now I have just received a new email from someone called Caitlin. Now this is part of the activity. The children will receive an email, and we now have a scenario that Caitlin is telling us about that we need to respond to. So, hi, I have received an email from a girl I don't know. She has said she knows me and would like me to come to her party. What shall I do? I don't want to be rude. Perhaps I do know her, but I've forgotten who she is. Can you write me a one-sentence reply telling me what I should do? So here's where children can reply. They can forward and they can put into practice what it is that they've actually learned. So I think, excuse my typing, you should, and then they can type their response and click send. Once they do that, they will then receive another response from Caitlin with a further piece of advice or questioning regarding the actual activity. So here, asking if she's breaking any SMART rules. So if the children have followed the plans for this, then they will have been introduced to the SMART rules, and Caitlin is asking whether it's acceptable to give her address. Is she breaking any SMART rules? And so on. So you can see that it's a chain allowing you to reply to all the emails, and at the end you can view the full exchange between Caitlin and the children, and then that's a really nice example to print off and show, this is what we do at our school when we have any issues that we need to address appropriately. If you want to view all the scripts of the pre-made to respond activities, Whenever you're in the 2Email app, just open up the question mark at the top, the blue and white question mark. And then within here, you should see the 2Respond Create an Email Simulations area. And this is the 2Respond Email Simulations. That one was an online safety one. And the first simulation was looking at the strange activity. So if I just scroll down here, I can see the content of each of the emails, and it also allows me to see how many emails I can expect my children to receive. So if time's a bit of an issue with you, then you don't have to play all of the activities themselves for you to be able to understand what it is the children will be asked to do. There's also a really great tool that you can actually create your own 2Responds as well. If you want to pick up on any issues that might have happened out of school, maybe you haven't planned for the children to be able to do a particular 2Respond, but something might have happened over the weekend with some of the children that posed an issue. It's been brought into school. You might want to create your own 2Responds, maybe being a fictional character, or it could be like, I am the boss of Google. Can you explain how this breach of security happened? So the 2Respond is a brilliant tool whereby you can create your own character, or you can use some of their own, and then you can pre-formulate your own thread of emails for the children to respond to. So really nice way and creative way for the children to be able to use that tool and to put their practice and their skills of email to help understand and further their learning. Now, whether you're the subject lead for computing at your school, or a class teacher, a TA who delivers computing, or you're on the senior leadership team, it's useful to be able to see where the online safety learning fits in to your overall plans for computing within your school year. So I'm just going to go back into the computing scheme of work, and I referenced the progression of skills document earlier. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the overview for the whole primary phase for computing. And the reason I want to show you this is whether you are single age classes or mixed year group classes, what we have is an overview of what the children will be covering each year if they're following the Purple MASH scheme of work. Now you can see that the yellow units here are the digital literacy units. So in year 1 we've got 4 lessons in unit 1.1 and 2 lessons in unit 1.9. We've got a further 2 units in year 2, 2 more units in year 3. And then in year 4, 5 and 6, the digital literacy is taught solely through the use of online safety. And I just wanted to bring your attention to this area because current guidance suggests that rather than blocking online safety and just delivering it once per year, because it is taking such a spotlight now of the focus of children's online safeguarding and being able to use online resources responsibly, what we recommend is actually not blocking this, but just chopping up the lessons within each unit and drip feeding them throughout the year. So for example, if I was teaching in year 5, I could do the first lesson in autumn at the start of the year, 1 in spring and 1 in summer. Same for year 4 and year 6. Plus it's also worthwhile noting that within the computing area of Purple MASH, if I click on the computing icon in the subject section here, when that opens up, when my computer's decided to play ball, there we go. If I just scroll down underneath, you'll notice that we have a whole bank of online safety resources. Now these online safety resources, quite a lot of them are populated each year following the Safer Internet Day focus. So we match up with the Safer Internet Day target focus each year, and in 2021 it was about online reliability of information. So you can see here that all of these activities with the new banner, they were all directly linked to the 2021 focus, and previous resources as well were based on previous year's Safer Internet Day campaigns. So please bear in mind that every February there will be new content added into this section, which will just allow you to help deliver the content of the Safer Internet Day within your school. We often have resources broken down into Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, and there's usually assemblies and individual activities that you can set for your children. So it could either be one special day, or you could make a week of it and have the children completing different activities within that week. So although it isn't always pinpointed directly within the scheme of work, this is an area that we will flag to your attention each spring. We'll always reference it within the featured panel on the left-hand side, just informing you that there are new resources for you to make use of. It's also worth bearing in mind that a lot of the resources and focus within digital literacy in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 has a lot of links with PSHE. So you can also explore the PSHE folder from the main screen. Within here, there's lots of resources linking to myself and identity, appropriate behaviours, special days, and problem page scenarios as well. Now, a lot of these will filter in through the Education for a Connected World document that I showed you earlier in the teachers section as well. But if you find things easy to navigate, again, that's another way in which you could easily just find resources. Now, a lot of this has been guidance about what you can do to actually deliver digital literacy teaching to children, but it's also really useful to get children's responses back to you, to allow them to convey how much they understand and can explain about how to be safe online and to use digital content appropriately. So within the computing scheme of work area, you'll find that we do have, as part of the assessment tools, within the progression of skills area, the children have their own opportunity to self-assess using I can statements. If I just open the whole school one to begin with, this is years 1 to 6 skills check. It breaks down the children's self-assessment into the 3 key strands: computer science, information technology, and digital literacy. So let's say I jump down to year 1, pupils I can statements. Here, the digital literacy is filtered into unit 1.1 for online safety and 1.9 technology outside of school. And the idea is that once children have finished each unit, they can refer back to the I can statement and they can colour code the space in whether they feel like they sometimes understand, they mostly understand, or they always understand with the traffic light system. So it's a way in which you can help gauge and involve children's understanding of each of the areas. And as you can see here, all of the digital literacy ones are broken down separately from the information technology and computer science. So it might be that if you are the curriculum lead and you want to have a particular push on digital literacy at your school, you might want to just share these with your colleagues and get the children to be filling in the digital literacy one at the end of their units. And then you can compile this at the end of the year and then feedback and move on from there with appropriate action plans. And that leads me quite nicely onto just showing you the area of the computing leader toolkit that you might find particularly useful. If you're wanting to gauge from your children, your colleagues and your stakeholders like parents as to how well they think online safety is delivered and covered at your school, then within the teacher section we do have the subject leaders toolkit. Within here, if I open up the computing leader toolkit, you'll notice that I have the staff surveys. So if I open up the staff surveys, we do have a staff online safety survey that you can either send out as a PDF that your colleagues can fill in, or we have created a 2Survey activity. So what you might want to do is either just use this as it is already, or you might want to add your own questions or remove some of the content. And then what you can do is you could save that to your staff folder in your school's purple mash area. If I try and find my staff area here, I could just call this Online Safety Survey 2021. And then my colleagues, I might just give them 10 minutes at the beginning of the next staff meeting, ask them to all fill that in, and then it will collate all of the results, and I can view all the data quite easily by clicking on the pie chart icon at the top. If you haven't yet used a 2Survey app before, they are brilliant. They do a lot of the legwork for you. It's really handy just to watch the online tutorials showing you how you can set up one, how you can edit one, and how you can share the information and data that it creates for you as well. So there's that one there within the Computing Leaders Toolkit for staff. And then we also have the pupil and parent voice area. Within here, similar to the staff one, we either have PDFs that you could print out and email to parents, or we do also have the 2Survey activities that have been preloaded. And again, you can change these if you like. So for online safety for Key Stage 2 children, online safety Key Stage 1 children, and parent and carer voices as well. So really useful tools that will do the legwork for you. It will create all that data for you to analyse and see how confident parent and carers and children in Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 feel about their online safety at your school and at home and the devices they have access to. So if you weren't aware of these, I think it's a really useful tool that will provide lots and lots of useful information for you. Again, it could be something you want to set out now, and then in a year's time send out the same information and then see and track any changes as to people's understanding and behaviours for online safety. Okay, so hopefully that's given you some ideas as to where you can find the information for digital literacy. Remember, a key area is looking at the progression of skills area in here. Have a look at your overview for the whole school. Each year group does have its own trimmed down version of their overview when you expand the year group folder, and this is where you can see the units to be delivered in each year group. It will also reference as well underneath the medium-term plans covering the success criteria for every lesson. If any of you want to find out any further information, maybe you want a bit of a one-to-one, some more guidance, by all means, click into the teachers area, open up professional development, and you can book in for a mass chat and you can have a one-to-one screen share or a telephone call with members of our CPD team if you'd find that useful and beneficial to get more out of the software. Thank you ever so much for attending today's webinar. I hope you found it useful. Happy purple mashing!